Have you ever had a boss hovering over your shoulder, questioning every single decision you make, asking for updates every hour, and demanding to approve things so minor that you wondered why they hired you in the first place? That feeling is suffocating, and if you have lived through it, you know exactly what I am talking about. But here is the thing most people never stop to ask. Why do bosses actually micromanage? Like, what is really going on inside their head when they do this? Because understanding the why changes everything about how you respond to it, how you protect yourself, and how you eventually get out from under it. That is what this video is about. We are going deep into the psychology, the workplace dynamics, and the real hidden reasons micromanagement happens, so you can stop feeling like you are going crazy and start making smarter moves. Let us start with the most obvious question. What even counts as micromanagement? Because not every hands-on boss is a micromanager. There is a difference between a leader who is engaged and detail-oriented and one who is genuinely undermining your ability to do your job. A micromanager does not just check in. They check up. They do not just review your work. They redo it. They do not just offer guidance. They replace your judgment with theirs at every single turn. They want to approve decisions that you are fully qualified to make on your own. They second-guess your methods, even when your results are solid. They hover, they interrupt, they create a dynamic where nothing ever feels like it belongs to you. That is the hallmark of micromanagement, and it goes beyond being annoying. Research and workplace experience consistently show that being micromanaged is one of the leading causes of employee disengagement, burnout, and turnover. People do not leave bad jobs nearly as often as they leave bad managers. So when we talk about micromanagement, we are talking about something that has real consequences for real people. Now let us get into the actual reasons it happens, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. The first and probably most common reason is simple fear. Not fear of you, but fear within the boss themselves. Micromanagers are often incredibly anxious about outcomes. They are terrified of failure, and because they are responsible for what their team produces, they feel like the only way to guarantee a good result is to control every input. In their mind, if they let you handle something independently and it goes wrong, it reflects directly on them. So they insert themselves into everything, not because they think you are incompetent, but because they do not trust the process if they are not running it. This is fear-based leadership, and it is exhausting to be around, because you are essentially absorbing someone else's anxiety every single day. The second reason is a mismatch between how a boss thinks and how you work. Some people become managers because they were exceptional individual contributors. They were great at the technical work, the detailed work, the precision stuff. And when they step into a leadership role, nobody actually teaches them how to delegate effectively. So they default to doing what they know, which is diving into the details themselves. They are not necessarily trying to undermine you. They genuinely do not know how to lead without being in the weeds. This kind of micromanager is actually the most coachable, the most reachable, because their behavior comes from habit and anxiety rather than malice. But that does not make working for them any less draining in the meantime. The third reason is organizational pressure from above. Sometimes your boss is micromanaging you because someone is micromanaging them. Think about the chain of command in most companies. If senior leadership is demanding constant updates, tight controls, and real-time visibility into everything happening below them, that pressure gets passed straight down. Your boss might hate it just as much as you do, but they feel like they have no choice but to replicate that behavior at their level to satisfy the expectations coming from theirs. This is how micromanagement spreads through an organization like a culture disease. One anxious executive can create a ripple effect that leaves every layer beneath them walking on eggshells. The fourth reason is one that people rarely talk about out loud, and that is insecurity rooted in competence gaps. Sometimes a boss micromanages because deep down, they are threatened by the talent on their team. When you are genuinely good at what you do, when you have ideas, skills, and instincts that make you stand out. Certain types of managers feel destabilized by that. Micromanagement becomes a way to keep you contained, to make sure your contributions are always filtered through them, to ensure that the credit and visibility flow upward in their direction rather than outward toward you. This is a darker version of micromanagement, and it is closely connected to the kind of toxic workplace behavior that derails careers if you are not careful. When your boss takes credit for your work, when they find ways to undercut your visibility while simultaneously depending on your output, that is not just micromanagement. That is something more strategic and more personal. The fifth reason ties into power and identity. For some managers, control is not a tool. It is a personality structure. The act of overseeing every detail is how they feel relevant, important, and needed. If the team functions smoothly without heavy intervention, they start to feel unnecessary. So they create dependency. They insert themselves into workflows in ways that make it seem like things could not run without them. This is a deep psychological pattern, and it is also why these types of managers are the hardest to change. You cannot logic someone out of a behavior that is propping up their entire sense of self-worth. Now here is where this gets really practical, because knowing why your boss micromanages is only useful if it changes how you respond. So let us talk strategy. The first move always is to regulate your own reaction before you do anything else. Micromanagement gets under your skin in a way that makes you want to either shut down completely or push back hard, and both of those responses usually make things worse. When you shut down, you confirm to the micromanager that they need to stay close because you seem checked out. When you push back emotionally, you create conflict that gives them a reason to tighten their grip even further. What actually works is calm, deliberate professionalism. Not compliance, not passivity, but measured strategic calm. One of the most effective things you can do is get ahead of the anxiety that drives the micromanaging. Remember, most micromanagers hover because they are afraid of being caught off guard. So give them information before they have to ask for it. Proactive updates take away the trigger. If your boss tends to send 5 check-in messages a day, try sending a morning summary of what you are working on and an end-of-day wrap-up of what you accomplished. You are essentially feeding the anxiety loop before it has a chance to initiate. Over time, this can genuinely reduce how often they feel the need to intervene because you have removed the uncertainty they were responding to. The second strategic move is documentation. This is non-negotiable. Anytime your boss gives you direction, follow up with a written summary. This is not about building a case against them right away. It is about protecting yourself and creating clarity. Micromanagers who change their minds and then blame you for following their original instructions are surprisingly common. When you have a written record of what was agreed upon, you have something concrete to point to. It levels the playing field significantly, especially in environments where it is easy to gaslight someone about what was or was not said. After every meaningful conversation or meeting, send a brief follow-up email. Keep it neutral and professional. Just to confirm what we discussed, I will be moving forward with this approach by this date. Let me know if anything has changed. That is it. Simple, clean, documented. Third, choose your moments to push back carefully. You cannot challenge every instance of over-involvement, or you will exhaust yourself and come across as someone who cannot be managed at all. Pick the specific situations that matter most to you, the ones that actually impede your work or undermine your growth, and address those thoughtfully. Frame your pushback around effectiveness rather than preference. Something like, I find that I produce better results when I can work through this phase independently and then bring you a complete draft for review. Would you be open to trying that approach? You are not telling them to back off. You are proposing a system that serves the work, which is much harder to argue with. Now let us talk about the bigger picture here, because sometimes no amount of strategy changes the underlying situation. Some micromanagers will not soften regardless of how skillfully you handle them. And if you are stuck in one of those situations, you need to think longer term. The most dangerous thing that can happen when you are being micromanaged is that you stop developing. When every decision goes through someone else, when your judgment is constantly second-guessed, when you are never allowed to lead anything fully, your skills atrophy. You stop taking ownership mentally because there is no point, and that stagnation is invisible to the outside world. Future employers see your title and your time and role, not the invisible ceiling your micromanager put over you. So here is what you do while you navigate the present. Keep building your capabilities in whatever space you are given. Volunteer for things outside your immediate team when possible. Build relationships across the organization so that your reputation is not solely dependent on how one person perceives you. Make your contributions visible through channels beyond your direct manager, whether that is cross-departmental projects, written communications that go to broader audiences, or relationships with senior people who can speak to your work independently. Your immediate boss does not have to be the only person who knows what you are capable of. And if you are at the point where the micromanagement has become genuinely harmful, where it is affecting your mental health, your confidence, your performance, or your sense of self, that is important data. That is your nervous system telling you something the spreadsheet cannot. There is a point where surviving the situation stops being strategic and starts being self-destructive. No compensation package, no loyalty to a company, no fear of what comes next should keep you in an environment that is systematically dismantling you. The goal is always to be strategic about your exit, not impulsive, but also not indefinitely delayed. Here is the honest bottom line about micromanagement. It is almost never about you. It is almost always about your boss, their fears, their insecurities, their habits, or the pressures being pushed down on them from above. That does not make it okay. It does not make it easier to live with on a daily basis. But it does mean you do not have to carry it as a reflection of your worth or your capabilities. The boss who is hovering over every detail of your work is not doing it because you are not good enough. They are doing it because something inside them or around them has made them unable to let go of control. And that is their problem, even if it lands in your lap. What you can control is your response, your documentation, your relationships, your reputation, and ultimately, your next move. None of those things are small. Together, they are the full picture of how someone navigates a micromanaged environment without letting it define them or destroy their trajectory. Micromanagement is one of the most common and most psychologically draining experiences in professional life. But now you know what is actually driving it, and knowing that puts you ahead of most people who are just suffering through it and wondering what they did wrong. You did not do anything wrong. You just needed the real explanation, and now you have it. If this video helped you make sense of something you have been dealing with, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment below telling me about your own experience with micromanagement. I read everything. And if you want more content about navigating the real dynamics of the modern workplace, subscribe because there is a lot more coming that you do not want to miss.